When it comes to Commander, one of the big hot button issues is power level disparity. But what if I were to tell you that power level is not necessarily everything? What is up, Commander players? My name is Matt and you're watching Top Commander. Today's video might sound a little strange. But this is just something that I've come to realize, and I could be completely wrong in my thinking. By all means, if anybody disagrees or agrees in any way of what I'm about to explain, be sure to leave it down in the comments below. But before we dive too deep into it, if you wish to support this channel, as always, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to support this channel directly, be sure to visit patreon.com/topcommander. But going into this confusing sounding topic, one of the big hot button issues in Commander is the Rule 0 power level. What's the power level of your deck? So people want to keep the power level pretty even to have a good, fair, fun game of Magic, especially in Commander. This is understandable, very much so. But what if I told you what if there might be the case of, yes, power level is an issue, I understand this, but not every deck is created equally. Now, this may sound like something that, oh, well, that's obvious. What I mean by that is, what if you have two decks that are built around the same power level, but one just blows out the other one? Now we're getting into a case of, I build decks on a scale of between 6 to 8 on the power level. I'm talking about me personally. But not all of my decks run as well as the next. Some of them run really, really good. I have a 8 power level deck that can hang with CEDH players, but is not CEDH. I have other decks that are no more powerful than your common precon. So what is going on? What is the deal with these decks having such differences? Is it the colors? Is it the card choices? Well, it can't really be the card choices, because typically when you're talking about color, all of my decks pretty much have the same run-of-the-mill cards for specific colors. If it's in green, of course it's got Birds of Paradise, Rampant Growth, Farseek, Cultivate, Kadama's Reach, Haro. If it's in blue, I'm running Brainstorm, Ponder, Preordain, Pongify, Reality Shift, Rapid Hybridization. If it's got white, it's running Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares. If you're in red, you're running Chaos Warp. If you're in black and white, you're running, Utter Ends, Anguish of Makings, things like that. Or if you're in black, you're running Feed the Swarm, because it's now a black enchantment removal. So there's a lot of staple cards that are just kind of givens when it comes to specific colors. And just about every deck I have runs those cards. Now, what is actually going on with these decks to be so different? I think, in all honesty, one thing, so a couple of days ago, because it's hard for me and my play group to get on Spell Table all the time, because, between work schedules, schools, a couple of us have kids, our schedules are pretty tight, and it's hard to get together and play. So, my wife and I, we, every once in a while, will sit down and play a couple of one-on-one games. Well, of course, Commander Legends came out just recently, and I was super excited about building around some of the commanders. In fact, one of my favorite commanders from Commander Legends ended up being Obeka Brute Chronologist. of course, when I reviewed that set and I was looking at some of the legends, I wasn't sure what to do with Obeka at first. Because that's not a playstyle that I'm used to. And when I started seeing different ideas with how to build it and everything, I ended up building the Obeka deck. It almost looks like Josh Lee Kwai's build from the Command Zone with a mix of Mitch's version that he recently did on Commander's Quarters. Some budget alternatives were thrown in the deck because I don't have a lot of super expensive cards. The mana base is fine, it works. But it plays a specific way, and I really enjoy that deck. I wanted to build it, I built the deck. Another legend from Commander Legends that I wanted to build around was Tago Goblin Weaponsmith. Had to. I immediately, as soon as I saw that card previewed, I wanted to build that deck just because it would be funny to throw rocks, right? Because how many people are throwing rocks right now because of that card? I'm willing to bet there's a bunch of people out there that built around Tago just because just the concept of throwing rocks is just kind of funny, right? So I don't feel like I'm alone in that. But of course, I wanted to build it where it would function. So I ended up partnering Tago with Thrasios. Now, I know what people are going to be saying in the comments about this, and no, Thrasios was not the problem. Yes, Thrasios is powerful. Don't get me wrong, but the deck's not built around Thrasios. Thrasios is just kind of there. So I built the deck mainly to take advantage of Tago and the rocks and everything, and I wanted green and blue because you got the card draw, you got the ramp, and you got red to have the artifact synergies there as well. Blue also offers artifact synergies, so partnering Tago with just a mono green partner like Tago and Kadama, that's fine and dandy, but I wanted the blue portion of that because I had a Tatyova Benthic Druid and the new one from the Commander Legends Precon AC, the 6-drop Tatyova that gives you an additional land drop. So I wanted to put those in the deck with Tago, and that's what I ended up doing. So my wife and I, we sat down the other day to get a couple of games in because I have to scratch that itch. And she was like, okay, well, let's play. So we sat down and I was like, well, cool, I want to bring these two decks out and I want to give them a test run because I built the decks, but I haven't played them yet. So game one, me and her, I was using Obeka, and boy, that game was so fun. The power level was definitely on point. There was a lot of back and forth. She almost won that game. Got me down to like 5 life, and boy, that game was clutch at the end. If I want to get a recording of some of these games and get some gameplay videos up on the channel, that is one of the goals for this year. But even if I just got a clip of the end of that one-on-one match, oh, you want to talk about nerve-wracking, because you're there to have fun, but at the same time, the goal is to win. So when you're like, man, I'm close to winning, my deck's starting to do its thing, and then you're getting backed into a corner, getting low on life, and you're just like, oh no. That's just, it was just kind of funny. So she got me down to 5 life. I managed to pull a win out of absolutely nowhere. I just have no clue how I managed that, in all honesty. But, yeah, so that was game one. Really fun. Came in clutch. She had a great time. She almost beat me, fair and square and everything, and it was really fun. Game two, she uses the same deck. And they're both of these decks are, again, on the same power level, but again, not all decks are created equal. So I pull out Tago and Thrasios, and we're playing. All of a sudden in this game, it could have been variance because it was just one game. You gotta remember, this is just one game. We only played the two. So it could have been that I had a really good opening hand. Maybe she didn't have a really great opening hand or whatever. Which is weird because I thought she had a pretty good opening hand. She was ramping pretty hard, but maybe it was the fact that she didn't have enough card draw at the beginning of that game. But she ramped out. She had like 9 mana on like turn 4, turn 5. So the deck was doing its thing. It was going. But of course, Tago, I kept kind of a sketchy hand with Tago because I was just wanting to play test it, see what happens. Tago had a bit of a slow start, and then all of a sudden, it just burst out of nowhere. And come to find out, the deck ends up playing Solitaire for a solid 5 minutes. I was not expecting that. But it wasn't playing Solitaire to the point that I would never pick it up and play it again. We basically came to the conclusion that I can't play that deck one-on-one against her. What we ended up coming up with was I would have to play that deck again in a pot of 4 with the guys to play test it and see what happened. But the odd thing is, both of these decks are built on about the same power level. So, what is going on? Now, I argue the point that if you look at Obeka, it's a Grixis commander. It's red, black, and blue. Tago is Temur. It's red, green, and blue. Now, when you look at the color pie, black is a really good color. You have access to tutors. There's some really good effects. Black does really great. Blue offers a lot of different things nowadays. Removal, card draw. I mean, that's just the basis of blue. Now, when you look at the third color for Tago, the green, you have now added ramp on top of the card draw, on top of the artifact synergies from blue and red. So, is there something going on that maybe I'm missing? Is it just that the color wheel is not evened out? Now, for those of you that have watched these episodes, I believe it was about 2 years ago, the Command Zone, while it did a couple of episodes about statistics on Commander, they hired a guy to come in and crunch the numbers and break it down in a specific way to get specific answers. This is where the aspect of having a turn 1 Soul Ring, you will statistically lose more games than win. But one thing that they looked at, I believe this was part 2 of that series that they did. They did 2 parts to this. Part 2, they broke down the winningest colors and what percentage increase your deck will get with certain colors in it. The highest percentage color that they had on that video was green. Oddly enough, right? Maybe not so surprising for most people. But green was the winningest color. Followed by black, which is understandable because black does have the tutors to find everything that you need. And then followed by blue, which I thought blue was going to be higher up on that, on those statistics. And then it was followed by red, and then white was, I think white gave you a negative %, which ended up kind of being a little funny. But, so now with those statistics, are those statistics being upheld by what we're seeing in games? Potentially. Even when you look at CEDH, the top decks of CEDH, from what I understand, are Temna and Thrasios, and then there's a Thrasios Vial Smasher. Well, you have access with those 4 colors to green, blue, and black. A lot of the win conditions, Thassa's Oracle is blue. Black is, you got Demonic Consultation, which is black. And a couple of other cards here and there varying depending on what strategy, what win con you're going for. So, what is going on with the color wheel? I feel like white, obviously, everybody feels that white needs to be upheld a little bit more. Green probably doesn't need as many things as it's getting. At this point, green used to be just the ramp card, the ramp color. Blue was the card draw color. Okay, well, now you have green drawing cards about as good as blue. And they were already ramping better than blue. Something needs to give, right? So, again, variance is a thing. Maybe we should play a couple more games to see what happens. I'm honestly kind of scared that if we play a couple more games that the games go the same way and there's another deck that I'm not allowed to use in the household. But that's the thing. When it comes to power level, all of my decks are around the same power level. They're all varying between 6 to 8. But some decks just are not created equal. Maybe it's the fact that not all colors are created equal in this game. But what are we supposed to do at that point? If it's, maybe the power level is there, the power level is fine, but maybe it's just the color spread. The way that each color plays out. Maybe we should be looking at that. Just as a food for thought. I want people to get down in the comments below and let me know what you guys think. Is it potentially the fact that maybe it's just not all commanders are created equal? That is also a thing. I mean, look at Urza compared to any white commander. So, yeah, I guess it can also depend on, like, the way you're building the deck. But, like I said, the decks are built about the same power level. I honestly thought that Obeka was going to be more powerful, but Tago and Thrasios turned out to be playing solitaire and controlled the board way too easily in a one-on-one match. Maybe Obeka will play even better in a multiplayer game, and Tago and Thrasios just plays fine in a multiplayer game. Who knows? But yeah, that's kind of basically my food for thought, and I wanted to see what you guys think. So let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next video.